Morning.
We're learning Mishna is Chagigah.
Making everybody dizzy.
Including myself. Okay. Perek Gimel Mishnah Dalel, just again from the beginning. Chaim b'Truma shebihuda namanim al taras yayin v'shemen kol yemai sashana. There's a stringency by Truma over Kodesh that in Yehuda, the Amei Haaretz, the ignorant people are trusted regarding the purity of wine and oil all year round. If we're talking about Kodesh wine, and not if we're talking about Truma wine, but during the period of pressing grapes into wine and the olives into oil, which is a point of time where they are preparing the wine and oil to separate Truma from it, then everyone is careful with Truma and Tara. And then Afala Truma, even then, the Amei Haaretz will be trusted regarding Truma. Then the Mishnah continued, Avar Hagitos Va'abadim, if the period of pressing passed, Viviyu Lai Chaver Shal Yayin Shal Truma, and Amei Haaretz brought a chaver, someone who is careful with Truma Tara, he brought him a barrel of wine, he may not accept it from him. But the Amei Haaretz could go ahead and leave it for the next period, a year later, and then present it to the chaver, and the chaver will be able to take it because during that period of time, the Chachamim gave Nemanis, they trusted the Amei Haaretz, and that's the period of time that they gave the trust, and that applies no matter what. Now, Vim Omar Loi, if regarding this barrel of wine after the pressing time, the Amei Haaretz tells the chaver, Hifrashid L'Seich Revias Kodesh, I separated inside of it a quarter of a lug for Kodesh to be sanctified, to use for Nesachim libations on the Mizbech, on the altar, Neman. That means that as long as there is a part of this barrel that is Kodesh, and therefore we trust him regarding the Kodesh, we're going to trust him regarding everything else about the rest of the wine in that barrel also. Okay, now this is the final part. This is the new part for today. Kadeh yayin v'kadeh shemen, jugs of wine and jugs of oil. Hamadu ma'is. Now hamadu ma'is typically means mixed. And typically, that meduma is when you have truma and non-truma mixed together. That's typically what the word meduma means. That is not the case here. The case here is not where you actually already have things separated and mixed together. It means that you have these jugs, and these of wine or of oil, and the Amei Haaretz, his plan is that he's going to separate from these jugs. He's going to separate Trumas and Maisris, and then from what's left, he's going to go ahead and sanctify it for Kodesh. Okay, the remaining oil, he's going to designate a portion for Kodesh. So this is the plan. The plan is to separate wine, to separate Truma from this. After separating Truma, you're left with Chulin, with regular oil, and then his plan is that he's going to now make part of that sanctified for the Mizbech, for the altar. But he didn't do anything yet. This is all potential. We're calling it meduma mixed because essentially tevel, which means the produce or what you made before you separated Trumas and Mais, is called tevel, which in a certain way you can look at tevel as a mixture of truma and not truma, because that's kind of the situation. The whole thing is usher, but the whole thing is usher because a part of it is meant to be truma, and then a part of it is meant to be chulin, and your plan is to go ahead and sanctify part of it. So here we're talking about, he didn't do it yet, but this is his plan. Therefore we say, Nemanim aleim b'shas hagitais v'habadim, he's going to be trusted during the wine pressing and olive pressing season, not only for the contents, but for the jugs themselves. That's the point here. The new idea here is that the previous part of the Mishnah already told us that if you have a barrel, and in the barrel you have Kodesh wine mixed with Truma wine, we just said, the Amei Haaretz is believed regarding the Kodesh wine, he's believed regarding everything else. Here we are saying that that's going to be true, number one, for potential, meaning there's no Kodesh yet, but it's going to be Kodesh. Part of it is going to be Kodesh. Since part of it is going to be Kodesh, we're going to go ahead and trust him. We're going to trust him to say that the Kodesh is tar, and therefore, or what would be Kodesh is tar, and the rest of the contents are tar. But not only that, the jugs themselves are tar. Typically, if an Amoritz tells you on a jug that it's tar, you don't believe him. Because since he's not careful, typically, many Amoritz are not careful, the Chachamim said wherever he touches is impure. So really, it should come out that when he tells us about the jugs, that we're not going to believe him. But at this point of time, when it's during the time of the pressing, we're going to believe him. Not only are we going to believe him during that period of time, the Chaim Legita Shivas Shivim Yom. The Chaim Legita Shivim Yom. 70 days before the pressing, we're also going to believe him. Because since this is the period of time that they start, 70 days before the pressing is when they start purifying everything, themselves and the vessels. Already 70 days before the pressing, we're going to believe him regarding the purity of the utensils that are going to be used in preparation for this pressing season. Okay? So since the Amei Aretz are trusted about the portion of the wine and oil that will eventually be designated as Kodesh, they're also trusted for 70 days prior to the wine pressing season by the time of the jugs that contain the Kodesh and the portion of Truma within them. So the point is that, again, we are trusting him regarding we're essentially trusting him because of the portion of Kodesh that's in here. And once we're trusting him about that portion that's in there, we will trust him regarding the rest of the contents in here. We will trust him also even regarding to the jugs that's in there if it is during the pressing time, or it's even 70 days before the pressing time. If it's during the period of time that they are already making sure they're tar, because, as we said before, during the pressing time, everybody's careful about tahara because they want to make sure they can separate the truma in a state of tahara. What happens later on with it, they may not be so careful with it, but when they're first separating it, they are careful with it. At that period of time, we're going to believe them regarding the jugs. Not only are we going to believe them then during the pressing season itself regarding the jugs, but 70 days beforehand, we will also trust them regarding the jugs. Now, we need to go ahead and we need to work through some of these notes over here because they bring out some very important points. So the first thing is like this. Although most utensils of Amei Haaretz are tamei by rabbinic decree, the sages trusted them to vouch for the tahara of the jugs holding Kodesh wine out of respect for the altar, because it would be disrespectful to pour on the altar wine drawn from jugs that are being treated as tamei, even though the wine itself was treated as tar. As such, when a utensil contains a mixture of potential Kodesh, Truma, and Chulin, an Amoritz is trusted to vouch not only for the tahara of the Kodesh, but also for that of the Truma, Chulin, and the utensil themselves. Okay? That means like this. Again, we could have, if we wanted to, we could have said just the wine is tar, which we're going to see during the rest of the year that is actually true. When we're talking about, we said before, if there's Kodesh wine, actual Kodesh wine, that's mixed here together with the Truma, we said that is a situation where we will believe the Amoritz, not only regarding the Kodesh wine, but regarding the rest of the wine. And the reason we don't split it, we learned yesterday, was because it's disrespectful for the wine going on the altar to be from the same barrel that the rest of the wine is considered even rabbinically tamei. And therefore we say it's all tar. Not only do we do that, but in a situation where we have actual Kodesh wine in here, we say the jug is also tar. Because again, it would be disrespectful for the Kodesh wine to be poured on the Mizbeach and to say the barrel that it was in is tamei, even midrabanan. So therefore, in that situation where he is trusted, which is all year round, when there's Kodesh wine, actual Kodesh wine in it, then we say he's trusted regarding the rest of the wine and regarding the jug. Now, when we talk, but here again, and now we're extending that. We're extending it to a situation even when there is an actual Kodesh wine in it, but there is the wine that he's planning on separating Kodesh from it. And this is during the pressing season when everybody is careful with their vessels to make sure everything is going to be pure. We're going to say that not only will the rest of the wine in the jug be pure, considered pure, but the vessels themselves will be pure, and even 70 days beforehand, which is when they're getting the vessels ready. Now, and therefore we say, as I say here, since people begin purifying their utensils 70 days before the pressing season begins, there is ample reason to regard the utensils as tar during these 70 days. And Amoritz is therefore trusted from the beginning of those 70 days through the end of the pressing season about the tahara of utensils holding wine that is to be designated as Kodesh. Okay, he is not, however, trusted year-round. Although an Amoritz is trusted to vouch for the tahara of actual Kodesh, this case deals not with actual Kodesh, but with wine that will be designated a Kodesh later on. Amoritz are not as concerned about the tahara of future Kodesh as they are about actual Kodesh, though they do have some concern about wine that will be designated as Kodesh. Hence, we trust them about the tahara of such wine only from 70 days before the pressing season through the end of the season when they are purifying their utensils and are therefore more careful about tahara. The point is like this. The rest of the year, when we're talking about actual Kodesh wine, we're talking about actual Kodesh, during the rest of the year, if let's say the Amoritz goes ahead and he tells us, one second. Right. If let's say if let's say all year round, and Amoritz tells you, it's not during the pressing season, and Amoritz tells you, I am planning on separating wine from this barrel, and therefore that the wine is tar. Therefore the wine's tar. In that situation, we actually will not necessarily believe him, because since it is not yet actual Kodesh, he's not as careful. But during the period of time where they are careful with their utensils because they're getting ready for the wine pressing season or the olive pressing season, and during that period of time, we know they're careful about everything. During that period of time, and that can even be 70 days before the actual pressing starts, and during that period of time, we will trust the Amoritz about the potential Kodesh in this barrel and about the utensils that are holding it. Because we're talking about potential. And since it's potential, he's not as careful as when it's actual. So the rest of the year, if we have the situation, he's got a barrel of wine and he says, I'm going to separate Kodesh from it, we're not going to necessarily believe him because it wasn't yet Kodesh itself. But if he's doing this during the period of time that we know in general they are careful, so then even if it's not an actual Kodesh, but it's going to be, he's planning on making a Kodesh, then we'll trust him about that, we'll trust him about the rest of the wine, and we'll trust him about the utensils. Now the last thing that they bring down here is that, the last thing they bring down here is that we mentioned that a Amoritz is going to be believed, right, during the pressing season, they're believed about the Truma, right? We said that before. You have a barrel, and it's the pressing season, and he tells you, this is Truma Tahira, it's pure Truma, you can believe him during the pressing season. Because that's when everybody, including the Amoritz, are careful. During the pressing season, when we believe him about Truma, what about the barrel? Is the barrel Tahira also? The answer is no. Of course, the barrel's not going to make Tameh what's inside of it right now. But to believe him that this barrel is Tahar, you can't. You can believe about the contents of Truma, but not about the barrel. And we're splitting it. And the reason we didn't split it by Kodesh is because we say it's not respectful to the Mizbeach, to the altar, to put wine on it that we call tar, and the rest of the wine was Tameh, or the barrel was Tameh, the jug was Tameh. That's not respectful to the Mizbeach. But by Truma, we don't have that issue about being respectful to the Mizbeach. And therefore, when it comes to Truma, you can believe about the Truma itself, but not about the barrel. Which means if you want to reuse the barrel now, you have to consider it Tameh. So that's this part of the Mishnah. Again, is a little bit different than before because of the fact that we're not talking about actual Kodesh, we're talking about potential Kodesh. Okay. Chofetz Chaim now. Okay. So he said, the previous halach had stated that at the end of the day, you saw him do something that is prohibited from the Torah. We're talking about something that is between man and Hashem. So we say that no matter what level of the mitzvah it is, the actual mitzvah, a deraisa, a derabanan, a detail of the mitzvah, you're going to tell people that he did you're going to tell people that he did this thing that's wrong. It's gonna be derogatory. Gimel, ach yischalek zeh hadin lepratim achadim. There are a few details about this. Dim hu ish beinani kastam ish Yisrael. So let's say he's a kind of middle of the road regular Jew. Typically, he tries to stay away from sinning, but sometimes he stumbles. And therefore, we can say that he did this unintentionally, or he didn't know that this was forbidden, or that he thought that this is not an actual halacha, it's an actual law, it's a stringency. So then, even if you saw him do it many times, you can definitely, basically, put it on that. You can give him the positive. You can give him the benefit of the doubt, and therefore not to go ahead and to reveal people what he did. And even in your own eyes, you shouldn't put him down. Now that I hate him because of it. You have to give him the benefit of the doubt. According to many opinions, doing this falls into the positive commandment of the Torah. You shall judge your friend with righteousness. Give him the benefit of the doubt. So the point of the Chofetz Chaim here is that you have this person. There is no question he's doing something wrong. You know it's wrong. And he may have done it even many times. But at the end of the day, if he's a Beinani, that means he's a regular Jew. He tries to keep Torah mitzvahs, and sometimes he stumbles. This act, although you know is wrong, you have to benefit of the doubt. He didn't know. He didn't realize. He didn't realize what he was doing. He may have a mistake. He may not understand it properly. And therefore, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. You can't look down at him, and you certainly cannot go tell other people about it. But the point is that even if he's done it many times, but he's a Beinani, got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.